Hey guys, it's Star Guardian Ryuka here with another video. It probably wasn't the best idea to model my entire channel after League of Legends content, when I really only wanted to stream the game and not make too many serious videos about it. Luckily, I have almost no one watching these videos, so I can basically make whatever I want without getting too much hate for it, because nobody cares. Anyways, today I want to talk about something that isn't related to League. Instead, we're going to talk about Pokemon. The series that gets more and more stale as time goes on, and the amount of effort put into games decreases more and more despite the price going up. Yeah, those games. Now, I do feel like I have to put a disclaimer here, saying not to harass the people who work on these games, as a lot of Pokemon videos I see result in a lot of hate, including those that don't even talk about criticism of the game. These games aren't free from criticism, as no game is, but do try to keep it civil. Especially since this video isn't even about any controversies. Nope. Today we're going to be talking about Pokemon Taxonomy. For those of you who don't stalk me during the day, I am a STEM major, which means I have no life. For specifics, I am a biology and anthropology major, which means I'm interested in biological fieldwork. Anthropology is normally the study of humans, but the major is preparing me for all sorts of different research in the field. I'm going to be studying a diverse set of animals throughout my life, and ecology is incredibly important in this field. For those of you who don't know, ecology is the study of how organisms relate to one another and their physical surroundings. Taxonomy is what we discussed earlier, and this is how we classify organisms and how they relate to other organisms. When it comes to taxonomy in the real world, organisms are classified based on similarities and differences. This can be phenotypical differences, which is what we see and observe with the naked eye, or genotypical differences, which is within an organism's genome. Taxonomical organization is not 100% accurate. There also isn't an exact definition for each rank. For those of you who don't know, taxonomic ranks are as follows: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, genus, and species. Domain and kingdom are the easiest in my opinion. There are 3 to 4 domains depending on who you ask. The 3 main ones are archaea, bacteria, and eukaryotes. Some people believe that viruses are the 4th domain, but we still aren't sure if viruses should count as living organisms. Archaea and bacteria are prokaryotes, which have cells that lack a membrane-bound nucleus, while eukaryotes have a membrane-bound nucleus. This is important to keep in mind. Next is kingdom, which in eukaryotes includes Animalia, Plantae, fungi, and Protista. Yeah, you heard that right. Fungi aren't plants. You know what kelp is? Yeah, that's not a plant either. In fact, members of its phylum, which includes kelp and certain other species of algae, are actually protists, not plants. Protists, unlike plants, don't have true stems, roots, or leaves, though they may have parts of their body that look similar to plants, but the actual body parts of protists work in different ways. Now, how are kingdoms defined? Basically, kingdoms started as animals and plants, which then added protists for microscopic organisms until scientists learned the variety of microscopic organisms was large and thus domains were created, in which our current system of domains was proposed in 1990. Eventually, the kingdoms in the eukaryotic domain included Animalia, fungi, Plantae, and Protista. And even today, scientists are debating about just how many kingdoms there are. Each kingdom is classified as having a set of traits that individually are not unique to them, but when combined are unique to that kingdom. The same is with every classification below kingdom, and even domain is based upon which organisms have what type of cells. Each group of organisms has a set of combined traits that narrows down the specific organism as you go from domain to species. Scientists today still argue about what defines a species. Some believe species can't interbreed and thus animals that can breed with one another are part of the same species, but with different traits or qualities, similar to how humans of different qualities such as skin tone, height, and eye color can mate with one another. Other scientists believe that some species can interbreed. This is shown by certain animals that are related to one another, but are not the same species. For example, a lion and a tiger can make a liger when they breed. Today we're going to be discussing taxonomy in the Pokemon world, however. Now, we could base this off the taxonomy of our world, but how would we start? Well, we know that all Pokemon fall under the eukaryotic domain and the Animalia kingdom, We know that they are eukaryotic because prokaryotic organisms don't produce sexually. Pokemon are shown to produce sexually when leaving them at the daycare. Sure, we don't know exactly how the eggs are formed, but I believe it's safe to say that some sort of joint reproduction occurs that produces an offspring with shared characteristics of both parents. In the case of Pokemon, children will inherit the species of their mother, but can also inherit things such as moves and IVs from the father as well. Before you say that certain grass Pokemon should be in Plantae or fungi, we also have to remember the characteristics of these kingdoms. Members of the Plantae kingdom are immobile, and any immobile Pokemon such as Kakuna and Silcone have some sort of mobile state. Members of the fungi kingdom also only reproduce via spores, and last time I played Pokemon, I don't remember any Pokemon reproducing from spores. And I'm pretty sure most of them don't even have spores. But Pikachu, do you have spores? No? Well, I think that's what someone with spores would say. There are some people who believe that Pokemon should be its own kingdom, or even a phylum of animals, but I believe there would be no point in having an Animalia kingdom at that point. Back in 2005, Cerebi user Andy Hunt stated that Pokemon belong in the phylum Pokemania. This phylum includes all organisms that can be turned into radiation and data into a PC. Now, I believe that the ability to turn Pokemon into data is more of a technological thing rather than the Pokemon evolving that quickly. It doesn't really make sense that an entire group would co-evolve quickly without any Pokemon not following the rule. If they did co-evolve, first of all, there isn't a reason for them to. Natural selection isn't going to kill off a large group of organisms because they won't stuff themselves inside of a computer. This is apparent as Pokemon as old as time itself, such as Dialga, can still fit in the PC. We can also explain this to be the cause of modern technology, as Ultra Beasts, a subset of Pokemon who exist in a separate dimension, can be turned into data and deposited into the PC. This includes Ultra Beasts that live in dimensions where computers don't exist, or at least haven't been shown. Also, dude, we forget that in older games you could put items in the PC? This is true for modern and older games, as in older games, especially for Emerald in the GBA when you didn't have a full backpack, you had to turn items into data and put them in the PC. In modern games we can still do this, as we can put items on Pokemon for them to hold and transfer them into the PC no problem. Overall, it's much more likely that modern technology is the cause of Pokemon being able to be turned into data, rather than it being some sort of co-evolution. The Canalave library in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl also explain that Pokemon and humans used to be one and the same, so we can use this as a point of common ancestry. It also says that humans and Pokemon used to marry as well, which is, that's actually pretty gross. Besides some old Pokedex entries, there are no connections to the real-world animals anywhere in the Pokemon world, at least that I could find. Overall, I think it's safe to say that Pokemon completely replaced animals in this world. The World of Pokemon is a non-canon website that also explains the Pokemon taxonomy, but instead separates inorganic Pokemon from organic Pokemon. They refer to inorganic Pokemon not as Pokemon that were created by humans, but instead Pokemon that are based on inorganic material entirely, such as Geodude being made of stone, Cryogonal being made of ice, or Gengar being a ghost. My argument to this is that the belief that all Pokemon are in fact organic. These Pokemon that are claimed inorganic because of what they're made of, or because they're ghosts simply, are the same as other Pokemon, just with qualities that make them a certain type. For example, the Pokedex claims Cryogonal is made of ice and will melt into vapor in hot weather, but we've never actually seen this before. If you send out a Cryogonal in intense sunlight, it won't melt. In fact, nothing will happen. The Pokedex also claims Pokemon like Phantom and Yamask are actually dead humans. But nowhere in the games does this seem to be true. If we shiny hunt for a Phantom in Pokemon X and Y, we aren't forcing children into the forest for them to become lost souls. If you want to hatch a Yamask egg, you aren't waiting for someone to die. In fact, if you had enough time, you could theoretically breed enough Yamasks to the point where you would produce more Yamasks than there are people in the world. You want to destroy the human race? Just keep breeding Yamasks, I guess. The Pokedex has been wrong before on a multitude of occasions. This includes, but is not limited to, the idea that every time Entei barks, a volcano erupts. If I send my Entei out into battle, it barks. So where are all the volcano eruptions? Larvitar needs to eat a mountain to grow, so how come mine evolved without eating one? There are more that we can prove wrong just by playing the games, but I'll leave it at that. Since there isn't any actual evidence that these Pokemon are in fact inorganic, it makes much more sense to classify them the same way as any other Pokemon. Occam's razor states that the simplest answer is most often the solution, and I believe we should follow that. These Pokemon are the same as any other Pokemon, they just developed in a different way. Ghost Pokemon aren't actually ghosts, just Pokemon with ghost-like abilities. Same with Rock and Ice Pokemon. We don't classify grass Pokemon as plants, but instead Pokemon with plant-like abilities. Loxton has a series that explains this in much more detail, so hit the iCard to go check that out after finishing this video. So now that we've classified Pokemon into the Animalia kingdom, we should next focus on Phylum. In Animalia taxonomy, Phylum describes how the organism's body is shaped. First is Porifera, which is basically sponges. Next we have Cnidaria, which includes animals such as coral, jellyfish, and anemones. Then we have the one that's flatworms, the one that's roundworms, mollusca, which includes octopi, snails, oysters, and clams. We also have Arthropoda, which includes any animals that have a hard exoskeleton made out of chitin, which includes arachnids, crustaceans, and insects. Next we have Chordata, which includes all animals that have a spine. This includes fish, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and birds. Now, we could classify each individual Pokemon into these categories, but unlike the animals from our world, Pokemon have a distinct feature unshared by our animals. They can breed with others that aren't within their species. For example, a cat and a whale in our world can't make a baby, but in the Pokemon world, a Skitty and a Wailord can make an egg no problem. Basically, if a Pokemon is in the same egg group, then it can breed with any Pokemon in said egg group. Some Pokemon can even be in multiple egg groups. There is debate on whether Pokemon in the same egg group have a common ancestor, or they evolved in a way that allows them to breed. But Occam's razor once again claims that the easier solution is the truth, and it was much easier to assume that a common ancestor than to assume that every single Pokemon that currently exists right now mutated in a way that allowed them to breed like this. If we assume the common ancestor path, then it's simple. A common ancestor gave all Pokemon in the same egg group the same or some sort of similar reproductive ability. This way, this trait is on each Pokemon in each species, in each egg group, until they mutate in a way that changes their reproductive system. If we assume mutation, then each and every Pokemon that has ever existed had to have mutated in a way that allows them to breed within an egg group but not outside of said egg group. This isn't plausible as most Pokemon don't need to breed with other species to survive. If Pikachu and Clefairy shared a habitat but not an egg group, they wouldn't need to develop the ability to breed with one another through gamete mutation, as they both have a large enough population to survive. Let's say the Pikachu population in the area dropped significantly, so they mutated in order to breed with Clefairy to continue the population. The problem with this is that the mutation would only impact the Pikachu in this one population, not every Pikachu in the world. However, we know that every Pikachu in the world can mate with Clefairy as they're both in the same egg group. It would be almost impossible for each and every Pokemon species and each individual within said species to mutate in a way that allowed them for breeding between not all, but specific species of Pokemon, some of which aren't even found in the same habitat or area, which would mean that there is no reason for egg groups to be mutation instead of a common ancestor. This can also be explained that if we have Pikachus in Viridian Forest, and we had a Pikachu somewhere else, and the Pikachus in the Viridian Forest mutated, that wouldn't affect the Pikachus in a completely different region. But we know that this mutation would have had to occur on Pikachus all throughout the world. So, what much more likely happened is that they had a common ancestor that gave them a specific reproductive capability. So, now that we agree to assume that A group is based off of common ancestor, how does this impact Phylum? First, we need to see if Pokemon A groups overlap with Animalia phylums. For example, do Pokemon who are based on animals in Chordata phylum share an A group with Pokemon that are based on animals from the Mollusca phylum? If they do overlap, this means A group was developed first, and then the Pokemon within the A group developed different body types. If not, body types were developed first and then separated into A groups. There are many examples of A group overlap when it comes to body type, however. For example, the Water 3 A group consists of Cnidaria, like tentacle and tentacle, arthropods such as Anorith and Armaldo, and even birds from the Chordata phylum like Archon and Archaeops. This supports the idea that A groups were first formed and then the body type developed. There are other A groups like this as well. The Fairy A group consists of mostly Pokemon based off of animals in the Chordata phylum, such as Pikachu and Clefairy mentioned earlier, but this also includes arthropods such as Cutiefly and Rabombi, as well as Milcery and Alcremie, who clearly don't have spines like the rest of the Chordata Pokemon. The amorphous and intermediate A group consists of mollusks like Slugma and Macargo, while also including members of Chordata like Stunfisk and the newly discovered Dreepy. This supports the idea that A groups came first and then Pokemon developed different body types afterwards while still keeping the same reproductive systems. There are some problems that need to be addressed, however. First is the Donphan in the room. Among the A groups consists of a group known as the Undiscovered A group. This consists of Pokemon that don't have the ability to produce eggs. This includes legendary Pokemon, with the exception of Manaphy and Fione, who are in the Water 1 A group. Many legendary Pokemon span across the endless dimensions of time and space, and thus don't really need to breed. They could also have just lost the ability to breed due to age, but so far we don't really know. There is no way to breed a legendary Pokemon in the games, and though we can use transferring to obtain multiple, they still can't breed with one another. Legendary Pokemon are an enigma, some of which are just creations of other legendary Pokemon. The closest thing we have is the Arceus event, in which the Pokemon embodiment of God gives birth to Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina. We just don't know how, or really have enough evidence to go on, so for now we're just going to ignore them until we can gather more data somehow. Secondly, baby Pokemon are also in this A group. This is more because baby Pokemon cannot mate rather than they have a common ancestor. Upon evolving, these Pokemon gain the ability to mate, and a large amount of eggs produced by these evolved Pokemon need one of the parents to hold an item in order for the Pokemon to be born as a baby Pokemon. For example, if a person breeds 2 Snorlax, then it'll just make another Snorlax. But if one of the Snorlax is holding a Lax incense, then the Pokemon that is born will be a baby Pokemon Munchlax. By this logic, we can safely assume that baby Pokemon should be in the same groups as their evolved counterparts. Finally, Nidorina and Nidoqueen are also in this A group, as well as 4 Galarian fossil Pokemon. For Nidorina and Nidoqueen, we can most likely assume they lost their ability to breed upon evolving, which wouldn't be too far-fetched. That's why female Nidoran can still breed, but Nidorina and Nidoqueen can't. This way we can connect them to Nidorino and Nidoking, as those Pokemon are basically the male versions of Nidorina and Nidoqueen. So we can just sort them in the same group. The 4 Galarian fossil Pokemon, on the other hand, cannot be sorted into an A group though. This is because the 4 of them, Dracozolt, Arctozolt, Dracovish, and Arctovish, are made by taking the pieces of fossils of 2 unknown Pokemon and then fusing them together via bioengineering, meaning that they are freaks of nature and can never give birth, and should never have existed. But now we're stuck with them, meaning that we can't really determine their A group, as they are a completely artificial species. Pokemon that we know are man-made should also be removed from their A groups to this man-made category. They may be related to other Pokemon within their A group through DNA and phenotypes, but we know that they can't actually have a common ancestor. This includes the Porygon line, Mewtwo, Castform, the type Null line, Genesect, and Magearna. There are other Pokemon that the Pokédex states are man-made, but we already went over how the Pokédex isn't the most reliable source of data. So we can assume Pokemon like Voltorb and Trubbish share a common ancestor with most other Pokemon. So far, Pokemon have been classified into the domain Eukarya and the kingdom Animalia. Next, Pokemon are classified into phylums based off of their A group, or classified into 2 separate phylums if they have multiple A groups. Next is class, which is based on the unique set of characteristics of an animal. This would be where we would put A groups if we didn't classify phylums after them. This is because Pokemon A groups mirror these set characteristics with a few exceptions. For example, all members of the Flying A group are birds, and almost all members of the Water 2 A group are fish. So if phylum are now characteristics, class would be what phylum would be, which we classify through body type. This is also given to us. There are 14 body types within the Pokemon world. First is Pokemon who are just a head, like Shellder and Glalie. Then we have Pokemon with a head and legs, like Cherrim and Stonejourner. Next, there are Pokemon with fins, which include Seaking and Remoraid. This doesn't, however, include Octillery, meaning that when a Pokemon evolves, their body shape can change. This means in order to see which Pokemon are more related, we'll be taking the body shape of the basic stage Pokemon. This is because when Pokemon come out of the egg, they're in their basic stage, and not all Pokemon eventually evolve. It's not like growing, it's more like development through training. So, not every Remoraid is going to become an Octillery, but every Octillery was once a Remoraid. Two fish-like Pokemon are more likely to create a Remoraid than an Octillery, so by counting basic Pokemon, we can more closely see which Pokemon are related to the line. There are 11 other body types, which include Pokemon with an insectoid body, quadrupeds, multi-winged Pokemon, multi-bodied Pokemon, Pokemon with tentacles, Pokemon consisting of the head and base, bipedal Pokemon with tails, bipedal Pokemon without tails, Pokemon with a single pair of wings, serpentine Pokemon, and finally, Pokemon consisting of a head and arms. These 14 categories will be our classes for Pokemon Taxonomy. Now, order is a bit different. There consist 19 orders of different mammals, which vary how specific they are. There is the order Carnivora, which is based entirely on meat eaters, while another, Chirpotera, is based on flying mammals, which consists entirely of bats. Families aren't much better, as scientists debate the importance of these two spots. These range from the broad family of felines known as Felidae, or the very specific Talpidae, which are just sloths. The games don't give us any info, so just like the real world, we would have to base this off of certain characteristics. This can't be generalized like other categories, meaning it would have to be different for almost each individual Pokemon. The World of Pokemon website does this wonderfully, and repeating a lot of the information wouldn't really help, but basically just copy the orders and families of real-world animals, which they've done wonderfully. So far, we've gotten into everything but genus and species. Genus would be the Pokemon's evolutionary family, and species would be the specific species. For example, the Pokemon Swoobat would be classified as Eukarya and Animalia, Field Flying, Single Wing, Chirpotera, another word that I can't pronounce, Woobat, and then Swoobat. Woobat represents the Woobat line, while Swoobat represents the specific member of that line. Regional variants would be a subspecies stated after the species. The exception to this is Oddish and Kabutops, who have actual canon scientific names, that being Odium Wanderus and Kabutops Maximus. These are slightly different than what I propose, but that just shows how taxonomy isn't set in stone. Scientific names actually change all the time. The bobcat used to be known as Felis rufus until it was later named Lynx rufus. So, there you have it! 8 pages of Pokemon taxonomy. I was mostly focused on including egg groups as well as body types, as it's not something many people think of when discussing this topic. I also wanted to go into the weird subsection that is Pokemon body types because, wow, it is weird. Hopefully more than just 3 people will see this. I spent a really long time on this, and I really hope that other people are able to come up with new theories and hypotheses about Pokemon taxonomy, because it's just really interesting. For those of you who made it through this extremely long video, please subscribe, leave a like, and a comment. I would really appreciate it.